Fabulous. Okay, should be recording. So we are going to make puzzle purses today. Does anybody out there know what that is? Raise your hand if you do. A couple people do. Cool. They are, well, they have existed around the globe for a long time. I think even in Asia, they go back like 1,000 years or something. But they are, they came to my attention because I recently worked on some art for a film called Emma, an adaptation of the Jane Austen novel. Do you guys know about this new adaptation of Emma? So it was directed by a good friend of mine who I collaborate with on a lot of stuff. Her name's Autumn DeWild, and she sent me all of this material and information about puzzle purses because we were trying to think of various ways that we could make art that to support the film and kind of go along with it. For this particular thing, we were thinking of like a promotional thing that could be sent out to people to let them know about the film. I am an illustrator, for those who weren't here this morning. I work mostly on kids' books, but I really do everything. So I do editorial work, and I sometimes do things that are completely random and don't really fit into any category like this, like making promotional art for a movie. And I'm in Oregon, so I'm across the country from you guys. It's still morning where I am. Still drinking my coffee. And so I'm gonna show you guys how to make a puzzle purse, which is essentially, I actually have a lot of them here and lots of cool historical photos to show you of them too. Essentially an elaborately folded object that was used in Jane Austen's time in like Regency England as a way of making a love note or a Valentine for someone. So people illustrated them, they wrote poetry on them. It seemed like a great time to teach someone how to make them, to teach some people how to make them, as we're not seeing a lot of each other in person anymore, but we still have the option of sending people mail. And that feels a little more special now than it has in the past, I think, as we're not seeing each other in person. We are seeing each other so much online. We are seeing each other so much via text and social media and Zoom. So I feel like making people things and sending them in the mail has special significance now that maybe it didn't before. I don't know about you guys, but I am very, very excited to get my mail every day. And most of the time it's junk, but I've had a couple of postcards. And it was just really nice to get them, just to see someone's handwriting. So this is like leveling up because you can decorate them, you can draw on them, you can write poetry on them, you can do whatever you want. They don't have to be serious and sentimental. They can be funny or stupid or anything, but it's just a nice object that you can make for someone you miss and put in the mail. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you guys some images of them. I don't actually know a ton about them and the history of them. I wasn't able to figure out that much about them, except that they have existed kind of pan-culturally for a long time and were very, very popular in like the late 18th, early 19th century. And the examples I have are all from then. So let me share my screen with you guys. Actually, hold on and let me open this PDF I made first. So, can you guys see this? Everybody can see it? And is it full screen? It should be. Awesome. Okay. So this is a puzzle purse when it's folded up. It folds in this, like I said, sort of elaborate way. So there's all of these different surfaces and ways to decorate it and to make art on it. So here it is folded, and you can see someone's written in their perfect, beautiful 19th century hand, some poetry around the sides of it, something about a sweet turtle dove. Here's another one. Here's another one. They often feature things like hearts and flowers again. You can be sentimental or you can totally go your own way. It is just a canvas to do anything you want on. Here's one folded and then partly unfolded. So when you start to unfold them, there, like I said, there are all these different little surfaces and kind of shapes and angles to decorate. That one also is partly unfolded. More stuff about turtle doves. I guess that must have been a big thing. This is all the way unfolded. And these really run the gamut. And I'll tell you, after having experimented a lot with trying to make these, I'll say that the easiest way to figure out how to decorate them and how they work is to make a bunch of them, like unprecious ones, like just sketches to figure out how all the pieces go together and stuff. Because it's sort of, this one, for example, I know, I actually printed this one out and folded it because I was like, how does this even work? And it turns out that these two shapes on the sides that are kind of like arrows with the blue points on them come together and make one straight line when it's all folded together. And then the hearts are in the other two corners. So the best way to figure out how to decorate a puzzle purse is just to make a bunch of puzzle purses. Here's another. They often have the central message kind of in the middle. So they have poetry or pictures around them, and then in the middle is like your picture of your sweetheart or some more turtle doves or kind of like a central decorative motif. There's a carnation and a rose. Lots of hearts. Lots of very, very fine calligraphy. And then this is how we're going to make it. But before I get to that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and show you guys some that I made. Let's see. So my friend tasked me with making this puzzle purse, and in order to figure it out, I just had to sort of start sketching on things. So I have a lot of things that are just like sketches, and then I would fold them up to see if they worked. Sketches. I think this is one of the earliest ones. I had this idea that traditionally they have a heart on one side, and when I was making one for Emma, I wanted it to be kind of traditional because we were referencing a really specific time in history. And I wanted it to look a little bit like a Regency era puzzle purse. And then on the back, I had this idea. The story of Emma has 4 main couples. So I would have the 4 couples holding hands. When you unfold it, you have this little picture of Hartfield, which is where Emma lives, sort of where a lot of the action in the story takes place. You've got all these guys here, and then you open it up, and here's Emma. So she's in the middle. It says, Emma, handsome, clever, and rich, which is part of the first sentence of the book. And then you can see all these guys are in the corners. And I went back and forth, like, should I have it be full of decoration? Should I leave it kind of simple so it doesn't feel as overwhelming? I didn't want to take away from the parts that felt important. So this ended up actually being kind of the final design for it. This is what the sketch looks like on the front. This is what it looks like on the back with Hartfield in the middle. I had pencil versions. I had watercolor versions where I played around with what it would look like in color. One thing that I think was sort of a mistake that I made with this was that I wanted to do the art on watercolor paper, and watercolor paper doesn't really work for this because it's very stiff. So you need to, you can imagine, like, how many of you have made a cootie catcher? Do you guys know what that is? Yeah. One of those things where you're like, you know, a fortune teller you write the numbers on it. And so it's sort of like that in that it has a bunch of different ways that you fold it and then it all comes together. And if you could imagine doing that on a thick piece of paper, it wouldn't work. If you could imagine using watercolor and ink on a thin piece of paper, like a piece of computer paper, maybe even sketchbook paper, that might be hard too. So I struggled a lot with what the right kind of paper was for this. And then I ended up, instead of just making the thing for the movie on an actual piece of paper, I made it all on watercolor paper in these separate, I don't know if you guys can see this, but like it's all little separate bits that I then Photoshopped together. Here's Hartfield, to come up with something that looks like, I'm gonna share my screen again really quick. So I Photoshopped all these pieces together to make this. And that's what the final art looked like that I sent to the printer, but it was really an overly complicated way of doing it because you can see like I had to figure out where all these lines and stuff were, and it would have been easier to just make the actual object, scan it, and send it to him. So maybe more information than you guys know. But so that's what the final art looked like. And then it got printed. So this is what it looks like printed. And this was the final art. So there's the guys on the back. There's Hartfield on the inside. Open it up, and then I went back and forth a lot with how busy I wanted the inside to be. Autumn wanted it to be real crazy, like some of those ones that just have writing all over them. But to me, I felt like design-wise, it just wasn't as nice. So I just put these suns in the corners, and that's what it looks like, and Emma's in the middle. And then we made a bunch of these. We found a printer that could figure out how to print them. They're really, so you get it like this, and then when you have to fold it back together, it's super awkward. You just kind of have to keep scrunching it until you figure out how to make it work, which you'll find out soon enough when we make our own. Yeah, so that was that one. Oh, and then I had this other, I'm going to show you guys one more thing. I've been making a lot of them ever since. I think this is easier to show as a video, but I did actually make one for my husband for Valentine's Day. And this one is his. So this is much more simple, and this was on cardstock with gouache and ink. You open it up, that's our house with mourning doves. I guess I got really like hung up on the dove part. And then these were lyrics to a song we used to like long ago when we were young. Oh, morning dove, you'll go up to my roof. Oh, morning dove, we'll go into the sky. Innocence Mission song, and then it folds and backs up. So with this one, I just like didn't even put anything on the other side. I left it super simple. Okay. Okay, so you guys get the idea, right? Now I'm going to show you how to make it. And it is hard. It's probably going to take a few tries. You'll just get better at it each time you try. But
so what you'll need. Some comments in the chat that People only saw the first image when you were using the PDF. So I don't know if
Oh,
you see that again. I think they saw the rest of it though. They just didn't,
oh,
they only saw the first image on the, when
oh,
the
they
examples.
can't. It's frozen on the first one. Oh no. Should I try again? There were so many examples.
Yeah, we can.
I'll try again. Holler if it doesn't work, because I can't see the chat screen when I'm sharing it. I don't think. Let's try one more time because it's neat to see all the examples. I think
Yeah.
it'll be helpful. So I go back.
Yes, we can see that.
You can see that.
Mhm.
It might have been because I made it full screen, but I doubt it. Let me try to make it full screen again because it's easier to see that way. So we can see this, right? Can we see the next
Yes.
one?
No,
No, it's still
still
the
on the
first
first
one.
one. Yeah.
Let me see what happens if, oh, sharing is paused. Bring your shared window to the front. What about now?
Yes.
It's a new image.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, good. So I'll go back. So here's that first image. I'm sorry that I talked for so long and had no idea that you guys couldn't see the other ones. Okay, so here's an example of what it looks like folded up. Again, this one is folded too. These are all from the same basic period of time, and they're all super sentimental. They have lots of hearts and flowers and birds. Like I was saying, you don't have to do that, but that's sort of how they were traditionally used. So this is what the same one. On one side it's folded up, and the other it's beginning to unfold, and you can see how there's all these different surfaces that you can draw on. There's another. And oh, this is what I was saying about them. When you unfold them, the important thing tends to go on this central square in the middle. You unfold it. And also another thing with it is that it folds up into this very tight little thing. So you can put like lots of stuff in there. You know, you could put like dried flowers or glitter or anything you want so that when it opens up, I made one for Autumn, and I cut up a bunch of tiny little pieces of colored paper and put it in there so that when she opened it, it was like this crazy explosion of colored paper, and it was really funny. And this was the one I was talking about. Oh, it's sad that you guys couldn't see that. You must have been like, what the hell is she talking about? This is the one I was talking about where I actually printed this out off the internet and folded it up to see what it looked like when it folded together. And I saw that those two yellow and blue arrows became one straight line, and the red hearts were above and below. And you guys can still see all these, right? Cool.
Yeah.
More doves, more hearts, the central thing, carnation and rose. And then this is what we'll get to now. I think what might be helpful is for me to just talk you through it, and then I'll bring this up on the screen. Hey, when I'm sharing my screen, can you guys see me and the origami thing? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, for now, I'm going to stop sharing, but I'm going to come back to that after we've gone through it. So what you guys need at the very bare minimum, can everybody see me? Is a piece of paper and something to draw with. It's really, really helpful if you have a ruler. So if you have one around, you might want to jump up and grab it. If you don't have one, you can wing it, but it'll be better, it'll work better, and it'll be easier if you have a ruler. I think for practicing, any kind of paper is great. What I have here is just a bunch of computer paper, nice and thin and easy to fold. When I did discover that for me, the best possible paper for this is cardstock, because you can watercolor on it and you can put ink on it, and it doesn't soak through to the other side, because that's the thing, you have to be able to draw and paint on both sides, and if it soaks through, it kind of ruins it. So if you're using a thin paper like computer paper, or if you're using sketchbook paper and you know that any color is going to soak through, you might want to avoid paint, maybe even markers, and stick to something like colored pencil or just pencil and pen or something like that, because you don't want it to soak through. But if you have cardstock for the final version, that's great. So the dimensions of it, it gets folded in thirds twice. So whatever size your paper is, if you have a piece of paper, you're going to start with a paper that's a square. If you have a piece of paper that's 9 inches by 9 inches, you are going to end up with a folded puzzle purse that's 3 inches by 3 inches. That's the size, that middle. You can kind of tell that it makes a grid of 3 by 3, 9 squares. That middle square is where you tend to put like your big message, and it all folds down to that size. So you'll need to start with a piece of paper that's a square. If you have a ruler and you want to make it really easy, you might also want to start with a square that is divisible by 3. For example, if you have a piece of paper that is 8 1/4 inches by 8 1/4 inches, then it's divisible by 3. I think is that 2 3/4 inches? I think. I'll do some math. Most computer paper is 8 1/2 inches wide. So 8 1/2 divided by 3 is 2.83, which is kind of an annoying number to measure. You know, it's between 2 1/2 and 2 3/4. 8 1/4 inches divided by 3 is 2.75, so that makes it a little easier to measure. But I'm just going to start with this regular piece of computer paper, 8 1/2 by 11. I'm going to fold it like this to figure out how to make a square, right? If I get rid of this piece right here, the remaining is going to be a square. So you can start with that. Or you can start with cutting your paper down to 8 1/4 by 8 1/4 if you want it to be perfectly divisible by 3. So I'm going to do this and cut off the leftover so that I have a square paper. And you guys can all do that along with me. You can use scissors, or you can just crease. And tear, like so. Okay. I'm actually going to draw with pencil on these lines where the creases are to help make it easier for you guys to see. How are you guys doing? Who has a piece of paper that's a square? I'll wait a couple minutes for everybody to have one. Awesome, awesome. I hope that wasn't confusing about making the square be divisible by 3. Hopefully it'll make more sense as I go on, but this totally works too. Okay, so now that we have our square paper folded like this, with a crease going from corner to corner, we're going to make another crease going from the other corner to the other corner. Like so, so that when I open it up, I have a big X across my page. Okay. Awesome, awesome. All right, give me a thumbs up if you're ready to move on. Awesome. Okay. So now that we've done this, we're going to be folding this in thirds. And this is when it really helps to have a ruler and a number divisible by 3. But if you're working with an 8.5 by 8.5 square, which is if you used a regular piece of computer paper, you're going to be folding at 2.83, which is basically right here. It's right between 2.5. So I'm gonna, you don't need to draw the lines. But I'm going to show you guys. Easier to see. We see this, that I have 2 more lines there, and I'm going to fold in on those lines. I did something weird. Hold on. So that's 2.5. Hold on, everybody wait while I figure out what I did wrong. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Okay. So I kept saying it was between 2.5 and 2 3/4. It's between 2 3/4 and 3. It's almost 3 inches. So 1 line. 2 lines. And I'm just folding in thirds. You see that? And then I'm going to do the same thing again on these sides. So fold it in thirds that way. If you don't have a ruler, you can kind of wing it. That's how I made the first bunch of them, was just sort of eyeballing it. And it works. It just works better with a ruler. And another nice thing about the ruler is that when you crease it, you can use the ruler to get a really good crease. You know what I mean? Like you fold it here, and then I use my ruler, and I go like this. And it's like an amazing crease. So here I go. My paper is folded into 9 squares. It has this X in the middle, and the corners are bisected diagonally with these creases too. And I'll just wait until you guys are all on the same page as me. I'm gonna share my screen again so you guys can see this because I think it'll be helpful. Can you guys see this? Can you see me too?
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So we are here on step 3. Because I'm showing this, can't really see all of you at one time anymore, but is anybody still working and needs more time? Yell, I need more time if you do. All right, cool. So this is where it gets hard. I think this is the hardest part to kind of figure out, but this visual aid should help. Now, see how all my creases are going inward like this. This is the front of my paper. This is the inside of our puzzle purse, and this is where our kind of central message is going to go. Flip it over so it's facing down. And now we're going to make these weird creases that you can sort of see if you use the visual aid. They go here, 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 and here. I'm just going to draw them because that'll help. Here, 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 and here. And the way you make them, you're folding in the opposite direction of all of your other folds, is to just kind of fold from the corner inward, but don't crease this whole line. You're just creasing from here to here. Does that make sense to you guys?
Can you show that again?
Yeah, I'll show you on the other side. So here's this. It's a crease that's going in the opposite direction of all your other creases because we flipped it over. And now I'll do this one here. I'm going to fold from this line is here. I'm going to fold from this line to the middle, but I'm not going to crease this whole thing. I'm only going to crease from here to the end to make a crease where this line is. Does it make sense? You can see on the where those dotted lines are in step 4 and 5 also. That's helpful. I'm creasing just this right here, not this, then opening it back up. Creasing just this right here, and then opening it back up. And it's a really, with I think a lot of folded paper stuff, it's really intuitive. Like at first you do it and you're like, this doesn't make sense. I don't understand how it's supposed to fold up. And my experience with it was that the more I did it, the more I kind of worked on it and messed with it, the more I was able to get it to work.
So when you turn it over, you should see like the number 6? Or
no, you don't need to see a number or anything.
I mean, not an example like the one you're showing.
This is the front, and you can see there's a crease, 2 creases this way, 2 creases this way, and they're all creased inward like this, right? And then you flip it over. Hold on, actually, I'll draw the lines with Sharpie because they'll be a little more visible that way. So you flip it over, and these are the lines that you're going to crease, and these creases are going to go in the opposite direction, like they're going to be folding in the opposite direction as the creases on the other side. See how this fold goes like this? But this fold, where the Sharpie line is, goes like this. Does this make any sense to you guys? Yeah?
Can you maybe turn off the screen share so that we can see it closer?
Yeah, that maybe makes sense. But do you guys feel like you need this screen share? I'll show this to you closer and then we'll go back to it, because I feel like the screen share is also really helpful to show how it folds up after you've got all these creases made. Here, let's stop sharing for a sec. So here's my face up side. I have a crease, and then 2 horizontal creases, 2 vertical creases. The whole thing is divided into 9 squares with diagonal creases in the corners and a square X crease in the middle. Then I flip it over, and these creases go in the opposite direction, meaning when it's flipped over, these creases are creasing closed like this. And that's the pattern of them. And I made them by doing this. So if you guys want to take your sheets and do this with me, maybe it'll help. Here's the face up side. We went like this. 1, and we went like this. 2, then this, 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 this. Right? Does everybody have that so far? Okay, good. Then we flip it over, and then we're going to crease these 4 diagonal lines, and we do it by folding toward the middle and just creasing this part. Rotate it, fold towards the middle again, just crease this part. Turn it, fold toward the middle, just crease this part. Just crease this part. How are you guys doing with that? Okay, good. A lot of you have it. So this is the magic part. I flip it back over, and the more creased they are, the better this works. Like if your creases are really creased, this will work better. This part took me forever to be able to do, but you just kind of squish these together and they do that. Is anybody having any luck with that? So I have it like this, and then these creases, which, because I flipped it back over, are creasing in this direction. I should be able to just kind of get them to do that. Yes, awesome. Nice work, Louise LeBlanc. All right, did anybody else get it? Haley, did you get it? Awesome. Awesome. Okay, we are having some success. Amanda, you're just no.
You can do it, Amanda. It's very awkward. You just got to keep working with it.
It's not, yeah, it doesn't really, it's not like the cootie catcher. It's harder, and it's more origami-like because it just kind of comes together in a magical way eventually, but it takes a lot of finagling. I'm going to show that visual aid again because I think it'll help.
Yes.
I was hoping that my 90s cootie catching practice was going to help. It is not.
It's a different, annoying, complicated origami thing.
Yes,
But the muscle memory of this, you will build up in the same way as you built up your cootie catcher muscle memory. Let me just show you the thing again, because I do think it might be a little more helpful than watching me do it. Let's see. So here you go. You've got this weird thing that's got an X, but then these 4 diagonal things are around the side. And then I don't know if this is helpful at all, but you kind of just scrunch it together and keep scrunching it together until it magically locks into this shape. Okay, what's more helpful, me just pointing at this thing or me going through the folding again, for those still struggling with it?
I think you going through the folding again would be helpful for me, at least. I don't know about everybody else.
Okay, I'll do that again. Let's see. So we'll go really slowly. Here's the inside. Here's where I started. I folded this way. I folded this way. I folded once, twice, turned once, twice. And all of those folds are going in the same direction. I'm folding inward with each of them, as opposed to, you know, folding like this. Folding inward, 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 inward. Then I flip it over, still folding inward. I'm folding along these 4 lines only. And like I said, the harder these creases are, the deeper these creases are, the more it will sort of magically fold together. So if you have something hard like a ruler or a knife or anything that you can use to really crease that. And also it can help you because you don't want to fold this part, even though, hold on, there we go. Even though I'm folding this whole thing, I'm folding this point to this point. But I don't want to crease this because that'll mess me up. I'm only creasing from here over. And then once I've got all that, then I'm going to flip it back over to my original side. And I'm going to sort of take all 4 corners somehow in my hands at once and mush them together to make this shape. And then once I've got this shape, I'm going to, again, just kind of crease these down. And the back has this, has the X that is going to be in the middle. Okay, so for people who are still struggling with it, you might just have to struggle with it for a little more. I'm really proud of you guys that got it, but it's super hard and it is just a weird muscle memory thing. Nice work. Good work, Susie Reynolds. Once we have this shape, we're going to see how one side has a fold and the other side is flat. With the flat side facing up, we're going to fold these around. And then this last one is going to tuck up in here. To make this perfect. Oh, That's my husband texting to find out what the password is on my kid's school iPad. Be right back. Okay, so I'm gonna lift my screen up and do this again so it's a little easier to see. Okay, so I've got this shape. I'm gonna flip it over so that the flat part is here, and I'm gonna fold these in. There's one, there's two, there's three. The third one tucks up under here. So you have this sort of perfect little envelope that's all snugly tucked up. Nice work, Haley. Good, good. You guys are doing great. Okay, that's awesome. So now we have gotten to the art part. And like I said, I think it's easiest to figure out how to draw and paint on this by just sketching first, and maybe making like a bunch of them and just figuring out where things go. So you have two different sides here. Like the way I figured it out was I just couldn't even figure out which was the inside, which was the outside, what was gonna look like what, and I actually still don't remember. But so if here's a heart, and then on the other side, say I have like a snake, an Ouroboros eating its own tail. So, because it's neat if you have something, it's kind of satisfying with these, if you have something that goes all the way around, some kind of continuous pattern or design, that once it's unfolded, is just, you know, all over the inside of it. But when you fold it back in, it comes together. That's kind of a satisfying thing. So, a snake eating its own tail. Then I'm going to open it. So the snake eating its own tail is around these sides. I've got this middle area to be like, you're the best. And now I know when I fold this back up, these areas are going to be on that front part. This heart, you know, is like, I can color it in, make it easier to see. I can't really do it actually while it's unfolded, but you get the idea. Yeah, I'm not really sure how to teach this part of it because I think it's all about experimenting and just drawing on it and trying to, and decorating it, but unfolding it and refolding it to make sure that things are going where you want them to go when it's folded up. Does that make sense? Do you guys have questions? Amanda, are you still wrestling with yours? Oh, you got it. Okay, good. That's awesome. Is anybody still wrestling with it? Yes. Oh, okay, let me unmute you. Hold on. And do the speaker view. Hold on and let me unmute everyone.
Me and all my friends.
You're all unmuted. Mute yourself back up if you want to. You don't have to be unmuted. But who was it that was saying they were having trouble?
Oh, I am still, but I just think I folded it the wrong way.
But I wanted to say thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, great.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, wish me luck on my exam.
Good luck. What's your exam on?
Astronomy. So it's really fun. But yeah.
I like your super astronomically accurate t-shirt.
Right. Yeah. I have like a hitchhiker's guide one that I wear a lot too. So gets me in the vibe, you know.
Good. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I hope it worked. You were able to do it. Anyone else have any thoughts or questions?
I feel very silly. I tried to open mine up from the wrong side and definitely ripped it partially. So learning from that mistake.
Yeah, that is totally fine. Because you just have to, like, you probably need to make a bunch of them before you get it figured out. The muscle memory thing is a big part of this. It's like folding it and then figuring out how to fold it together and take it apart. The more you do it, the more it makes sense. So are you guys gonna finish these and make them and send them to people?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Awesome. I think maybe I'll make one today too. I got a work deadline, but after I'm done with it, I could honestly I kind of wish this was my job, making puzzle purses all day for people and sending them in the mail. A very weird job, but I would do it in a heartbeat.
I actually have a question for you. I'm
Yeah.
curious, do we know much about the kind of people who would send these to each other? Like, I would imagine some very fancy Victorian kind of folks would send these, but do we know much about like men, women, people who were like high income, low income, that kind of thing?
I don't know that much about it. I always assume with this sort of thing that this is like the aristocracy who have time to sit around like practicing their penmanship and illustrating things. I think most people who weren't wealthy in Regency England were working so hard all day long. I'm sure there were artisans and people making puzzle purses of all classes, but I know that Emma and her people were quite wealthy, and that this was a pastime of wealthy people. You just sit around and play whist and make puzzle purses and learn to play all the instruments there are to learn. But yeah, I think it was probably the providence of the wealthy mostly. And like back then, everyone was a dabbling poet, you know. Writing verse was just kind of something that that rich people did, whether they had a penchant for it or not. It was so much more prevalent than now. So few people explore poetry these days, and back then it was like everybody who was well brought up did it.
I think it's really neat because it's also hidden, right? So like if you had a little message for someone, not anyone can see it, right?
Yeah. And I think it's neat because it seals up so tidily. So you can really put a lot of stuff in there, you know? I think that's why it's called a purse, because, you know, you can write someone a little poem and then put a dried flower in there or something. Mm-hmm. I found it really satisfying. And I loved the idea of, men did it too. I saw a bunch of examples that were done by men for their sweethearts. And it's just such a, you know, like, it's such a sentimental thing, all those hearts and turtle doves and like carnations and roses. And I love thinking about all those sappy dudes back in the day.
What? Right now?
Drawing like tiny little roses all over their puzzle purses.
There you go.
Oh, mine's not working since I definitely, oh, hold on. I accidentally got it on another screen. Since I definitely cut my paper a bit too short. Oh, okay. Jay, hi. Do you want to start again? What do you think, why do you think your paper's too short?
Oh, I just cut it initially, but I think I cut it too much. So it wasn't quite square, which was the issue.
Square is key.
Yeah. Because I can see it's trying to fold and it just won't.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk you through it one more time? Would that be
No,
helpful?
it should be good. Thank you, though.
Yeah, this is recorded too, so if anyone's like, I don't know how I did that time, you could go back and watch it again.
Cool. Well, thank you.
And still maybe be just as confused, but.
I think starting off with the right thing will be key.
Okay. Well, we have a little more time, so maybe I'm gonna fold one with cardstock and just kind of make one. I'm actually gonna go on my paper cutter. I'm gonna cut this into a size divisible by 3 because I think it'll work better. So I'll be back in 1 second. So this is nice because now I've got 8 1/4, which means each little quadrant is going to be exactly 2 3/4 inches. So I'm going to fold. And if you guys, I don't know if you have cardstock, but back when this world starts up again and we're all like going to office supply stores and it's not a hassle to get the things we need, if you decide that this is something that you want to make part of your correspondence and art practice, is making these puzzle purses, as I have made it part of mine, I highly recommend cardstock. It's really awesome. So being able to crease with this is really helpful. There it is. There's my X. Here's my, I can just actually go like this, 2 3/4. Two and 3/4. I'm actually getting really low on cardstock and I use it for everything. And it's, it's not like I can't find more if I need it, but it's realizing how dependent I am on it for all kinds of stuff. It's awesome paper. I don't know how many of you guys, does anybody out there use pen and ink or gouache or watercolor? Yeah, this is pretty great paper for that. It's like a really cheap and easy option, and I like the way that it soaks up those mediums. So I'm flipping over, and then I'm doing the thing, folding to here, creasing just that side, folding to here. Creasing just here. Okay, so then I flip back over and I can fold it up. It's a lot stiffer. It's a lot harder to get it to fold with the cardstock, but really satisfying when it does because it's so stiff. Huh, I didn't do a good job with this. Seemed a little off. Take my ruler and press everything down. Flip it over. I think I do. 1, 2, 3. This. Then I get my gouache, which looks like this, which is a lot like watercolor, but this is what I mostly use to paint with. And it doesn't work amazingly on cardstock because it doesn't soak in kind of with like the beautiful bleed that it would if I was using watercolor paper or something, but it works pretty good and it doesn't soak through to the other side. That's kind of the important part. I have this gold paint that's really nice, but my kids have used most of it. Ah, still got a little gold.
I know you told us in the earlier session, but if you want to tell the group like what type of gouache you use or anything like that.
Yeah, the brand is Winsor and Newton. Mostly, like I was saying in the other workshop, I use just specifically for this one color called Payne's Gray. I use a different brand, whatever brand I can find, because Winsor and Newton doesn't make Payne's Gray for some reason, but for everything else, it's Winsor and Newton. Use this. This is my favorite colored ink to use. I like to use brown ink instead of black ink when I'm doing work in color. This is Winsor and Newton also, and it's nut brown. And then I use a nib pen. Here's a good one. To draw with. So I dip in here. I usually will like test it out on a little piece of paper because it tends to bleed a lot. And actually the nib pen works so nicely on the cardstock. I just discovered that after using this for so many years and going through so many different kinds of paper, it never occurred to me that cardstock would be a good paper for pen and ink, because this kind of ink where you have a nib pen and you dip it in a little inkwell, it bleeds a lot, and most papers don't work for it. You can't really use it on like a toothy watercolor paper or on a toothy sketchbook paper because it just bleeds and soaks in and comes out the other side. But it's really nice on cardstock. And part of what appealed to me about making the puzzle purse is that I am kind of like a calligraphy nerd. Like you guys can see with this, that I really love writing with calligraphy. I will do it all day long. I love doing hand lettering stuff. This was a sheet of paper that was just testing different nibs because I was trying to find the perfect nib for it. So it's like all these different sections with calligraphy and different nib sizes. Nibs are like the little metal thing. This is the nib and this is the pen holder. And they come in so many different sizes and shapes. Are any of you guys people that draw with nib pens or calligraphers? Yeah, cool. So you know that a nib is a vastly different thing depending on what you're using it for. There's those big flat end nibs that people will use to do like black letter Gothic calligraphy. And there's fine nib pens that people use for drafting, architectural stuff. Kind of really feeling this crazy bright pink today. Can't remember what it's called. This color. Opera rose, that's what it is. So did any of you guys see Emma the movie? Nobody saw it? It's pretty good. A lot of movies right now, it's so sad. Movies that were supposed to be opening in theaters can't because there's nobody to go see them. So a lot of things are kind of going straight to streaming. Emma was in the theater for a little bit. So it didn't get totally, the timing wasn't totally terrible for it, but it is streaming now if anybody wants to watch a really gorgeous Regency era film. This is my favorite color, blue, ultramarine. It doesn't really look that good on the gold, I guess. So I found that the funnest way to do this, the most fun way to do this is just to start painting and then to kind of open it up and see when you look at the inside where your painting's at. And I just keep going back and forth between folding it up and painting and opening it up and painting. This I actually can't open because it's too wet. I have to blow dry it. That's another hot tip if you have a blow dryer in your home or studio and you're using wet media. You can make things dry very quickly that way. So here's my little thing so far. I'm going to open it up. Kind of on the back. And then I figure out what's going to go in the middle. Maybe a cat. And in fancy calligraphy, I'm going to write I miss you. And then oh, hold on, I'm making sure that I haven't missed any questions. I keep forgetting to look. Siamese cat. And then I'm going to give the cat blue eyes. I'm mixing green and blue and a little white to get a Siamese cat colored eye. And then maybe in all the corners, I'm going to make flowers. I actually think that wasn't a good idea because I think when I fold it up, I'll paint the corners. This color. How are you guys doing? Are you still working on yours? Did anyone who was drawing here this morning post their picture to Trans Mundane Tuesdays? No? Yes? Haley, yes, I saw. Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna go blow dry this again. I'm gonna come back in with my little pen. His eyes, I think, need to be lighter. I'm gonna... One thing that really struck me when I was looking at all the puzzle purses that people had made so long ago is all of the places where their pens leaked or they were trying to draw over the crease in the paper. And just how like incredibly human they are. One thing I really love about them is that they weren't really made by professional artists or people who thought of themselves that way. They definitely were made by people who didn't think that art making needed to be like a prime focus in your life and something that you've been practicing regularly your whole life in order to be something that you would devote time to. Sort of a different way of thinking about drawing and painting than I think we have now, where so many people are loath to do it unless they feel like they know how to do it or are good at it. But back then, if you look at those puzzle purses that people were making, a lot of the handwriting is really spectacular because people did write everything by hand with these beautiful fountain pens and nib pens, and they took handwriting really seriously. But some of the handwriting, you know, by those standards was not as good, and the drawings look like folk art. They're just people sort of rendering things the way they know how, and they're just really human, very, very beautiful, very much a window into how people made art and thought about art back then. This cat looks really vexed. It's kind of bummed out. I miss you. Oh, there's questions. So, how did you find all the puzzle purse examples? I just Googled it. That's how I find everything. I put a word into Google and then I click on image and it just brings up a lot of images. Most of them are in the collections of various museums, like in their digital archives. And some of them belong to collectors because people collect them. How do you decide when to use gouache or watercolor? I don't actually use watercolor very much anymore because I feel like gouache does pretty much the same thing. It's sort of the same idea, but it can do more. It's the same idea, but it's more versatile because it looks a lot like watercolor. You know, I'm adding water to it. It's pretty transparent. But if I want to mix it like acrylic or make it more painterly, I can use it in that way too. It sort of does whatever I want it to do. I used to use exclusively watercolor for so many years, and then when I discovered gouache, I realized that I could do exactly the same thing with it. But then I could also have these things like, oh my God, seriously, it's so hard to fold. Every time it's like, how does that go again? But with gouache, I could have things like these really vibrant, bright reds and colors that were opaque. And I really liked in a piece of art, kind of combining opacity with translucent, places of light washes and places of like really vibrant and opaque color. And that was just an easier thing to do with gouache. I see what my problem is. Folded kind of backwards. I painted on the wrong side. So, pull back like this. I flip it over, there's my cat saying I miss you. And so maybe like I get to this part and I think, oh, this would be pretty if I put some flower motifs here. In brown. Trying to make them symmetrical. Oh, maybe the flowers could be gold. More of this gold paint. Yeah, that looks really nice. I don't know if you guys can see how sparkly that gold is, but it's pretty sweet. I need to figure out who I'm going to send this to. There are a number of people who I miss. All right, I'm going to get up and blow dry this again. So this is what I've got so far. On this side, I've got this cat. He says, I miss you. And then on the other side is this shape that the back folds up into. How are you guys doing? Does anybody have anything they want to share? No? It's optional. Let's see, Haley. Hold on and let me put it on speaker view so I can see it. Nice.
Yeah, I did the heart kind of sideways because I thought that'd be kind of interesting.
Uh-huh.
Doing this way, then I haven't outlined it yet, but my friend just got a new puppy, so I made her.
Ah, sweet. That's so cute. So are you going to write like a special message in there or something?
Yeah, I think so. I was thinking maybe some song lyrics or something.
Yeah, that was what I did. I wanted to write a poem, but I was like, I can't, I don't have it in me. There's a lot of good song lyrics out there.
Her dog's name is Basil, so maybe I'll write a recipe.
Ah, there you go. A pesto recipe. I think I'll put a big yellow sun on the other side of mine. That seems eerie. I'm gonna put a sun in the middle, and I'm gonna write, "You are my sunshine," around the sides. Song lyrics. So are a lot of you guys out there studying for exams right now? No? Is that all on hold? Maybe? So weird to draw or paint when people are watching you, and you should ostensibly be like being entertaining and teaching. You want to work kind of fast because you don't want it to be like too laborious and painstaking to watch. But then you also don't want to work so fast that you make something super terrible and people are like, this person's supposed to be teaching me something. The art demo is kind of a funny dynamic. There's my son. Put some blue flowers in the corners. Oops. Use my pen. Do some decorating. I think there's something for me anyway, very meditative about making art that is symmetrical, especially this kind of like radial symmetry where you just have to draw the same simple thing over and over again. I find it really, it kind of quiets my mind. One of my favorite things to do. Something about moving my pen over paper and creating images, but not having to think very hard about what I'm doing. It's like a happy place for me. Blow dry this again. Here's my sun. I'm gonna use my nib pen again to, a lot of the time the nib pen bleeds a lot when I use it on top of gouache. It seems to be working out kind of okay. There's my sun. And then I think the last thing I'm gonna do on this side is I'm gonna paint. I like this gold color, I think it's nice. I'm gonna paint it in these corners here. Okay, I think I'm done. I'm gonna go blow dry this one more time. And then I'm gonna fold it up and unfold it and see if it looks cool. Okay, guys, I'm gonna fold mine up. Oh, this is nice. I'm reading all the stuff. Let's see. Hold on. Oh, this is so sweet, guys. I wasn't sure if this was really boring. I'm glad it was meditative. Dinner time in Spain. Wow. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. Okay, so here's this. I'm gonna fold it up. Come on, you can do it. There it goes. Yes. That becomes oh, I have kind of a missed opportunity here. I've got this on one side, I've got this on the other. I feel like I should have done something with this, but maybe I'll do something with it later. But it opens up. This little cat who's like, I miss you. And then pull it apart to the sun, which says, you are my sunshine. So now I just have to figure out who to mail it to. How did you guys all fare? Good? Awesome. Beautiful. Do you want to show yours up close? Susie? No, you totally don't have to. It is definitely optional. If anybody wants to show theirs, just raise their hand.
On the inside pages, I kind of wrote notes of like what was going to open so that I could do it later a little more detailed to know what I was putting everywhere. So the inside's just scribbles.
Yeah, that's smart. That's what I did the first time too, like lots of little numbers, because it's hard to remember what's going to go where when it's all unfolded.
Yeah. So I was like, inside fold, inside corner.
Awesome.
We'll do one together.
Yeah, you have a lot of time to make puzzle purses.
Plenty of time.
Everybody's got plenty of time to master them.
In a minute.
All right, thanks for joining us. Anyone else want to share? Are we all good? Well, this has been really fun. It was nice hanging out with you guys. It was a very peaceful and lovely little moment in my day. I'm about to go home and trade out with my husband. I'm in my studio. He's inside homeschooling kids. We're going to switch. Now he's going to go to work and I'm going to wrangle kids. That's our days now. But thanks, everybody. Hearts to you too. Puzzle purses forever. Bye.